Hello, good evening. So today we are going to talk about how soil formation takes place. We know that soil is a superficial layer of the Earth's crust, which is formed by the soil parent material called as regolith. Now, due to weathering of the parent rocks, which constitute the Earth's crust called as lithosphere, the regolith is formed. As a result of the weathering processes, the rocks are disintegrated, modified, transported, and then deposited on the bedrock in the form of a unconsolidated debris. And this debris is the soil parent material, but it is not the soil which is productive and the natural entity that supports the plant life. The parent rock controls the textural properties of the soil. So, in other words, the mere weathered and decomposed rocks do not constitute the soil. The physical and chemical weathering continues their action on the soil parent material, which is accompanied by the biological agencies in the form of microorganisms acting on the decaying organic matter. This biochemically weathered upper portion of the regolith is the soil and is distinguished from the parent material by number one, relatively high organic matter content, second, an abundance of the roots of higher plants and the soil microorganisms, third, more intense weathering being nearer to the atmosphere. And number four, presence of characteristic layers, that is soil profile, which we have already learned. Now, the process of soil formation involves two main stages, namely weathering and pedogenesis. The first one, that is weathering, in simple words, is the breakdown of the rocks and minerals into small particles. The weathering of rocks may be physical, chemical, or biological. First, we'll talk about physical weathering. You can see in the diagram, the rock has been broken. Now, that is a simple way of weathering. The physical or mechanical weathering of rocks results into decrease in the size of the rocks and minerals without affecting their composition. So, only the size will change. The physical forces such as temperature, water, and wind bring about physical weathering of the rocks. So these are different methods or types of weathering: physical, chemical, and biological weathering. When we talk about physical, it is a mechanical weathering, which has got four different types: block disintegration, exfoliation, pressure release, and frost weathering. In chemical weathering, there are chemical reactions like oxidation, carbonation, desilication, hydration, and dissolution. In biological weathering, that is weathering due to the living organisms. So we have weathering by plants, that is vegetation, animals, and of course weathering by human beings. So we'll try to cover the three different methods or types of weathering. So as I said, physical weathering is simply called as a disintegration, which basically results into decrease in the size of the rocks and minerals without affecting their composition. The physical forces like temperature, water, and wind, they brings about the physical weathering of the rocks. The first one is temperature. So when we say temperature, it means both high temperature as well as low temperature. Now, rocks as such are poor conductors of the heat, and therefore the effects of the changes in atmospheric temperature are restricted only to the rock surface. Now, the differential expansion and contraction between the exterior and the interior parts of the rock ultimately result in the peeling of the rock surface into layers. And this process is called as exfoliation. It is simply nothing but the peels are coming out like our skin. The peeling comes out in the winter. In cold climate, the water which enters into the crevices of the rocks freezes. And water as it consolidates will increase its volume with the great irresistible force. And due to this pressure, the crevasses deepen and ultimately the rocks break. Therefore, freezing and melting of water in the rock crevices are considered as the principal cause of the shattering of the rocks in the cold countries. Second one is water. Now you can see in this picture, the typical shape of this rock is due to basically water, the running water. Running water polish or rubs the sides and the bottoms of its path and thereby causes deepening and widening of the valleys. It also grinds and transports the material to the long distances. This excavation and destructive action of water is called as denudation. The transporting capacity of running water is enormous. The rainwater beats down upon the land and then travels towards the ocean, continually shifting, sorting, and reworking unconsolidated materials of all kinds. When loaded with such sediments, water has tremendous cutting power. Ice is an erosive and transporting agency of enormous capacity. The abrasive action of the glaciers as they move under their own weight disintegrates the rocks and minerals alike. The glaciers in the past ages have been responsible for the transportation and deposition of parent material over millions of acres. In India, glaciers are found in the Himalayas only, and some of them are the largest in the world. Then comes wind. Wind has always been an important physical force. It has tremendous carrying capacity. When dust is transferred and deposited in dust storms, abrasion of one particle against another occurs. The abrasion occurs, this particular aberration causes scraping and therefore causes weathering of the rocks. Many of the rounded rock remnants in some of the arid areas of the world are caused mainly by wind. The third, the second important method or type of weathering is chemical weathering after physical. It is also referred to as decomposition. The chemical weathering of rocks brings about definite chemical changes. In the earlier method, we saw there is no chemical change, only physical change is taking place. Only the size will be different, but the chemical composition remains same. But here in chemical weathering, the chemical composition would be changed. As a result of this, fresh soluble materials are released and new materials are synthesized. A young soil consists of air, water, organic matter, and primary minerals inherited from the regolith. Remember the soil parent material. Air, water, and organic matter are continuously renewed, whereas the primary minerals undergo chemical weathering and form secondary minerals. The chemical weathering of primary minerals involve various chemical processes such as solution, hydration, hydrolysis, oxidation, and carbonation. Now let us talk about each one of them. First one is solution. Now we know that water is a universal solvent and most of the solvents are soluble in water. Carbon dioxide gas is dissolved in water, increases its solvent action to a greater degree. Almost any rock material dissolves appreciably in carbonated water. So it is a weak acid. The process of solution removes the cementing materials of the rocks, which would consequently disintegrate. Second one is hydrolysis. This process causes decomposition of wide range of minerals, including feldspar and micas. The H plus ions of water tend to change places with positive cations of the minerals. The process is called cation exchange. For example, hydrolysis of mineral microcline occurs as follows. So you can see microcline along with water gives you acid silicate and KOH formation. And this KOH quickly combines with carbon dioxide and gets converted into K2CO3, whereas the acid silicate undergoes further changes and colloidal clay is developed. Third one is hydration. The property of solid to take up and hold water firmly, as if it is the chemical combination, it is called as hydration. And a very good example of hydration is development of limonite from hematite. So you can see hematite, which is red in color. Due to hydration, it forms limonite, which is yellow in color. Third one is oxidation. Oxidation is perhaps the first weathering action to be noticed even casually. The compounds resulting from oxidation are more bulky and more soluble in water than the original minerals. Due to this, the rocks disintegrate and the way is now open for various chemical changes. It is particularly manifested in rocks carrying iron as an element, which is easily oxidized and resulting in the color change. So you can see iron oxide, which is black in color. Due to oxidation, it forms hematite, which is red in color. Further, by addition of water, it forms limonite. So all these are chemical changes which are initially brought about by oxidation. Similarly, ferrous sulfide, which is black in color, due to oxidation, it gives ferrous sulfate, which is green in color. And ultimately, the soil color changes. Carbonation. The term implies the action of carbon dioxide on rocks and minerals and thereby formation of carbonates and bicarbonates. During the process of carbonation, carbon dioxide is first dissolved in water to form carbonic acid. This carbonic acid then reacts with calcium carbonate to form calcium bicarbonate, and the reaction involved are like this. Now, this process of carbonation is faster in low temperature as cold water holds more dissolved carbon dioxide gas. Carbonation is therefore an important feature of glacial weathering, where temperature is comparatively very low. Coming to the third very important type of weathering, and that is biological weathering. Biological weathering basically involves decomposition process by which organic materials are broken down, leading to humification and mineralization. In the corresponding picture, you can see on the rock variety of plants, microorganisms are growing and they are bringing about the chemical changes. The physical and chemical weathering process are basically accelerated by biological activities of the living organisms such as algae, fungi, bacteria, lichens, mosses, earthworms, arthropods, and so on. Mosses and lichens keep rocky surface moist by holding water and they help in the chemical weathering as well. The exudates from lichens such as squamatic acid corrodes the rock surface. The penetrating root system of higher plants, like you have seen taproot system, acts like wedges and exerts pressure within the cracks and crevices of the rocks. All plant root systems excrete carbonic acid and other acids which decompose the minerals and the cementing materials in the rocks and bring about their disintegration. Now we know animals like earthworm and ants. They mix up the soil with plant and animal residues and pave the way to chemical weathering. A number of microbes are known to be capable of decomposing many minerals like silicates, carbonates, and phosphates. Soil invertebrates, particularly oligochaetes and microarthropods, consume the organic matter and process it in their gut, facilitating the action of microorganisms. In the process of decomposition, acidic substances are produced, which further helps in weathering of rock fragment. Due to decomposition process, humus is formed, which mixes with clay, sand, and silt to form soil. Now, after weathering, the second part in the soil formation is pedogenesis. The constructive phase of weathering is almost simultaneously followed by the destructive phase of weathering is almost simultaneously followed by the constructive process with the formation of the soil body covering the bedrock. A multitude of physical, chemical, and biological reactions takes place. The nature and intensity of these reactions being affected by many outside influences, collectively called as soil forming factors. The sum total of all these reactions on the soil parent material constitutes a process of pedogenesis. Pedogenesis is responsible for soil profile formation, and it further consists of number one, decomposition and synthesis. Rocks and minerals get decomposed by the process of physical, chemical, and biological weathering. Part of the materials formed by decomposition get converted into new compounds, such as clay minerals, hydrated silica, hydrated oxides of iron and aluminium, carbonates of magnesium, calcium, potassium, sodium, etc. Second is eluviation and illuviation. Water plays an important role in the development of soil and formation of soil profile. It removes the number of soluble chemical compounds from the topsoil as it percolates down. The process that washes out chemical compounds is called as eluviation, and the surface from which components have been leached out down is known as alluvial layer or alluvial horizon. The soluble components leached from upper layers are deposited to lower layers, and the process is called as illuviation. The deposited layer of soil is called as alluvial soil. Next is humification. Now, humification, as the name suggests, it is nothing but formation of humus. Formation of humus from the organic matter. The biological activities of the soil organisms bring about degradation of dead and decaying organic matter and therefore produce soluble and insoluble organic compounds. The latter are incompletely decomposed, black colored, amorphous organic residue called as humus. The humus thus formed blends with the mineral matter of the soil to form colloidal complex. Number 4 is homogenization. Now, when the humification results in the development of distinct layer in the soil body, other mechanisms acting in counter direction, such as erosion, cultivation, acting of action of burrowing animals, etc., tend to churn up the soil and disrupt the formation of layers or horizons. Now, there are some specific soil forming processes we have to check out, like podzolization. It occurs in humid and cool climatic regions. The microbial activities in the soil are restrained, and organic matter is rich in acids because of slow decomposition. Water reaches minerals and humus as it percolates to acid rich horizon A. The leached matter collects on horizon B from the soil profile to form hard pans. The surface layer of the soil is ash colored and it's called as podzol. Second is laterization. Now, this is a common warm climate region with abundant rainfall and high temperature. The organic matter is rapidly decomposed, leaving oxides of aluminium and iron. The soil thus formed is called as laterite soil and is rich in iron but is devoid of silicon. Third one is glaciation. It is a process which occurs under poor drainage conditions of the soil and inadequate supply of oxygen in the in the lower part of the soil profile above the parent rock material. Iron is reduced to ferrous compounds under waterlogged conditions. The ferrous compounds render the topsoil blue or gray color and make it sticky. A good deal of reduced organic matter accumulates as very little organic matter can undergo humification being deficient in soil. Number four is calcification. In regions of low and unevenly distributed rainfall and high temperature, carbonates of calcium and magnesium accumulate in horizon B of the soil profile. The process of accumulation of carbonates is called as calcification. Now let us talk about certain factors which are affecting the soil formation. The process of soil formation is greatly influenced by number one, nature of the parent rock, number two, climatic factors, and number three, biological activities. As you have seen in the number of steps of soil formation, weathering, as well as the pedogenesis, all these factors are playing very important role. Number one, nature of parent rock. The rate of soil formation is retarded by excess of clay, granite, and sandy particles in weathered rock material. The profile development is also affected by exchangeable bases. The process of weathering is slow if the parental rock bed is siliceous. Second, climatic factors. We have already mentioned that temperature, rainfall, wind, they all are playing important role in the weathering process. So the temperature, amount of rainfall, and relative humidity affects physicochemical processes. Similarly, vegetation and ubification. Third one is the biological activities. The role of biological activities in pedogenesis is significant as it modifies the physicochemical properties of the soil. We always say that there must be biodiversity. So if specific organisms are missing in the soil, obviously the rate of soil formation would be comparatively very low. The microorganisms and macroorganisms in the soil directly and indirectly affect the organic content and the process of humification. Later on, we are going to talk about soil pollution. So in the soil pollution, majority of these organisms, if they are absent due to excess of chemicals, uh, obviously the rate of soil formation will be affected. Coming to the next part, soil pollution. Now we know that pollution is nothing but presence of anything which is undesirable. So if that undesirable is present in the soil, obviously it is a soil pollution. So anything that causes contamination of the soil and degrades the soil quality, that is called soil pollution. And it happens especially when there are number of pollutants which are reducing the quality of soil and convert the soil inhabitable for microorganisms as well as macroorganisms which are living in the soil. What we call soil microflora is affected. Now, soil contamination or soil pollution can occur either because of human activities, like addition of number of chemical fertilizers, or because of natural processes. However, mostly it is due to human activities. The soil contamination can occur due to presence of chemicals such as pesticides, herbicides, ammonia, petroleum hydrocarbons, lead, nitrate, mercury, naphthalene, etc., especially in excess amount. The primary cause of soil pollution is the lack of awareness in general people, like farmers, because everyone wants more and more production. So, in order to get more and more production, they tend to add more and more chemical fertilizers and use of chemical pesticides. So, thus, due to many different human activities, such as overuse of the pesticides, the soil will lose its fertility. Moreover, the presence of excess chemicals will increase the alkalinity or acidity of soil, thus degrading the soil quality. This will in turn cause the soil erosion. So this soil erosion would be referred to as soil pollution. So what are the main causes? As we have mentioned, soil pollution is either natural or due to human activities, but mostly it is due to human activities. So it is either by the effluents of the industries or use of pesticides in the agriculture. Now, main one of the main reason for soil pollution is pesticides. Post World War II, people started using DDT, the very common white powder, which you must have seen, as pest control in agriculture for killing rodents, the weeds, unwanted plants, insects, etc., and avoiding the damage due to these pests. However, everyone gradually realized the adverse effects of this chemical, which lead to ban in the chemical in many parts of the world, including India. You must have heard about bioaccumulation and biomagnification, which is caused due to the same chemical DDT. Moreover, pests became resistant to DDT due to chemicals regular use. Hence, this lead to introduction of other harmful chemicals like aldrin or dieldrin. Pesticides are synthetic toxic chemicals that definitely kill different types of pests and insects, causing damage to agriculture, but it has many ecological repercussions. Now, they are generally insoluble in water and they are non-biodegradable. And that is the reason why they have ability of bioaccumulation and biomagnification. So the concentration of these chemicals will increase when the transfer of these chemicals takes place from lower to higher trophic level via food chain. And hence, they will cause many metabolic and physiological disorders in the human beings. Second one is chlorinated organic toxins. The harmful effect of DDT and other chemicals led to the introduction of less persistent organic and more biodegradable substances such as carbamates and organophosphates. However, these chemicals act as harmful toxins for nerves. Hence, they are more dangerous to human beings. It led to pesticides related to the health of field workers in some agricultural fields. Similarly, we have herbicides, those which are killing unwanted herbs. The industry started production of herbicides like sodium arsenite, sodium chlorate. They can decompose in a span of few months. However, even they affect the environment, are not environment friendly. They are known to cause many of the birth defects. Furthermore, research suggests that spraying herbicides causes more insect attack and diseases in plants in comparison to manual weeding. One thing to note that the all above factors occupy just small portion of the causes. Majority of the causes are related to manufacturing activities in chemical and industrial processes that releases in nature or environment. So we are talking about the effluents which comes out. They go to the nearby river or water bodies and they enter into even our drinking water. Inorganic fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers, when you are using excess amount of these fertilizers, the inorganic nitrogen, it fertilizers leads to acidification of the soil and contaminate the agricultural soil. So this is known as agrochemical pollution. So what are the effects of soil pollution? Number one, inferior crop quality. Second, harmful effect on human health. Third, water sources contamination. And number four, negative impact on the ecosystem and biodiversity. So you may get some quick production, but long-term effects are very, very bad. So what are the solutions? Number one, nowadays we are talking about organic farming. So use of correct farming techniques, recycling of waste before disposal, recycle and reuse products, use of organic fertilizers instead of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, community education and awareness, especially get the locals involved. Then proper maintenance of the sewage system, proper disposal method of household and industrial waste, reforestation wherever required and wherever possible, reforestation and afforestation, and planting new trees and plants is called as afforestation. We live because plants live, and if the plants die, all living things will definitely die. Thus, whenever trees are cut down, new trees should be planted, and planting trees, especially in the hilly regions, is the most effective for conservation. So, thank you very much. As far as the questions are concerned from this topic, So first question would be asked from these two. Number one, weathering. What is weathering? Discuss any specific. We would be asking either it is physical weathering or chemical weathering or biological weathering. Okay. Or any one of them would be asked as a short note. Then second question would be especially from pedogenesis. So in the pedogenesis, these are the six different steps. So these steps here, sorry, four different steps. So what is meant by pedogenesis? Discuss the different steps in the pedogenesis. So these four steps: decomposition, eluviation and illuviation, humidification and homogenization. Then short note may be asked on specific soil forming processes. So we'll make the combination of two like podzolization and laterization, glaciation and calcification. Likewise, short note would be asked. Then short note may be asked on factors affecting soil formation. And lastly, uh, short note or maybe a full length question would be asked on soil pollution. Okay, thank you.